Hey guys, this is Coffee Guy Jake, the internet's least known home barista. Today I'm going to be showing you how I brew a less silty cup of French press coffee. I think this is one of the better methods of doing so, and it's an adaptation of the James Hoffman method. Now this is a French press. It's a highly affordable, easy to use, and forgiving brewer. You can get one of these at Walmart for about 20 bucks, and you can use about any grind of coffee on it. Something closer to like a coarse to medium grind coffee works best. It's just a little mesh filter and a little glass beaker. Not too complicated. There's just a few things you can do to make it less silty because it is prone to a lot of coffee fines, creating a muddier cup. Alright, one of my first tips would be to use a fresh whole bean coffee if you can. This is Red Rooster Old Crow. This is what I'm going to be using today. It was roasted just a couple of weeks ago. But if you can't, grocery store coffee can work. The French press is quite a forgiving brewer in that way. The grind size tends to be around what you can use. You can find some decent whole bean coffee as well, but I'll make a video more on coffee choice later on. But use whatever you have. Now, today I will be grinding my own coffee, so it's the grinder I'll use. Not all grinders are created equal, so you may find that different grind settings work better. Mine has a little guide here, but we're going to ignore the guide a little bit. Most people suggest using a coarser grind than you would for drip coffee for your French press, but if I'm using something that is a little finer than that, and possibly even a little bit finer than what you use for drip, tastes better and works better. You just run into the fines a little bit more, but the methods I'll be showing you later on will help better with that. Now, water. You tend to want it a little bit cooler than boiling. I've got a water kettle that has temperature control, which makes it really easy, but you don't necessarily have to have a thermometer. You can just pull the water off the heat when you go to prep your coffee, when you go to grind or anything. And it should cool off enough by then. You just need off boiling water so you don't over extract, and it should work out just fine. Note, if you're using lighter roast coffees, you may need to use hotter water. Now, everything I'll be telling you ratio wise for the recipe will be based off of weights using this scale. You don't necessarily need to have a fancier scale like this. You can get a cheap kitchen scale for like 10, 12 bucks at Walmart, and that should work. That's what I used for the longest time. You just need to be able to have a semi-accurate idea of the weight. If not, you can look up some guides on conversions or general guidelines on volumetric if that's what you have to work with. So the ratio I'll be working with is referred to as the golden ratio. It's about a 1:16 ratio of coffee to water. I think I get closer to 1:16.6, but you can play around with that. That's the beauty of this brewer, you can play around with that. So I'm going to be using 32 grams of coffee and about 500 grams of water. Now, you don't have to be exact, it's not too big of a deal, just get within the ballpark of that 32. Now, I'm going to do a little something called the Ross droplet method. You're just spraying a little water on the coffee beans. It just helps reduce the static so your grinder doesn't hold too much of the extra grounds. But if you're not grinding the beans, you don't have to worry about this. Disregard this whole step. Now that your beans are all measured and ready, just toss in your grinder and grind. Remember, just a little bit off of coarse to medium. On this grinder, it's going to be about a 5. It may vary on the other grinders. Now, here's something you can do with the water while you're waiting on it to cool. You're going to want to preheat your equipment so you can maintain that temperature throughout the brew. So you can use your water right after it starts boiling to preheat your French press. Just throw it in there and get to weighing your coffee and grinding it and prepping your cup with whatever sweeteners beforehand. And by then, your French press should be plenty heated. And your brewing water should be plenty cooled off. You should be able to pour it out, be ready to go. Now we're throwing in the coffee here. Some people like to bloom the coffee, just wet it first and let the gases escape, but I'm not going to bother with it. I don't think it's too necessary. I'm trying to cut out any extra steps that may not be pertinent to you starting out with the French press. You should be able to just pour your water straight in and be fine here. Now you're going to want to start your timer as you start pouring the water in. There's no real special method to pouring it in. I'm just trying to make sure all my coffee is saturated with the water so I don't have to do as much work when I go to stir. Now here we're going to be stirring the coffee. We're just trying to get all the coffee grounds saturated and hopefully get as much as possible to sink down to the bottom so you have less fines at the top to pour out. And then what we're going to do is just put this press on top just to hold the heat in while it's brewing. We're going to let it brew for about 4 minutes. But if you go a little bit over, it's not going to hurt it any. Most of the brewing happens within that first few minutes of the water being in contact with the coffee. Now this 4 minutes should also serve to help all this coffee that's at the top here to sink down to the bottom, so we have less to worry about at the end of the brew. Alright, we are at that 4 minute mark and we can start on the next step. Now what we're going to be doing is scooping the grounds that are still floating at the top off so we have less to worry about with agitation or just ended up in the final cup. Normally I'd scoop it off into the trash can, but for the viewer's sake I'm just going to scoop it off into my knock box that's just off screen. Now I'm just going to use one spoon here and just see I'm just carefully scooping it off. I'm scooping the foam off as well because some of the fines can get caught in that foam that forms. And I'm just trying to make sure I've got less fines and less coffee in general floating at the top. Now you could also use 2 spoons to help you better scoop the coffee out, but honestly I wasn't trying to dirty more dishes, so I'm just using 1 spoon. Something else that'll help though is if you're brewing enough to fill your press all the way, that would make it easier to access the grounds you're trying to scoop off the top. So that's just something to consider. Most people will have the shorter French press, so that may not be as much of an issue if you are brewing this exact amount right here. Alright, now that we have the coffee scooped, it is now time to place the lid back on. Now we're going to take that mesh filter press and we're just going to press it down to the level of the coffee. We don't want it to agitate anything, we just need it there to filter the coffee. I know it's called a French press, that's a little bit of a lie. If you agitate it, you're going to end up with those fines all throughout the coffee, so it's right here. Alright, I'm going to grab a cup that is not already preheated because I want the coffee to cool down fairly quickly to more of a drinking temp right away, but you can use a preheated cup if you want it to be hot already. Now we're just going to pour gently here. I'm being a little overly cautious, it's been a little bit, but as you can see, as that coffee is pouring, it looks fairly clear. That is what we're looking for here. Now, though the cup will be less silty, you are going to be looking at more body in your coffee. It's not going to be as clean as filtered, like paper filter coffee, because we are working with metal mesh. But this will be significantly cleaner than your traditional cup or French press. So I hope this helps you. At this point, you can just sweeten it or add any cream or whatever else you'd like to add to your coffee, depending on your taste and preference. I hope this video was helpful, and stay caffeinated, everybody. Thanks for watching, and for more content like this, check the description down below, and comment what your favorite drink is. And as always, stay caffeinated. Hey guys, I just want to apologize for the video coming out a little bit late. I was supposed to post it yesterday, but I'll be honest, I procrastinated, didn't get around to recording until late, and so it's coming out a few hours later than it should. and I also didn't account for the amount of time it takes to edit, even with a video that doesn't have as much going on with it. But I hope you guys enjoy, and I also want to apologize for the aspect ratio. I'm used to recording reels, so I forgot about the fact that since this video was going to be longer, that I needed to record it in landscape rather than portrait. But bear with me. When it comes to the longer videos, I will make sure in the future to fix that and hopefully record in good enough time to get it posted on time. Anyway, thank you. I'll see you guys next week.